Okay, okay. Can people see me at all? Hey, okay, it's working. Hooray. Hello, everybody. I'm so sorry. I never done a live stream before, and I thought it was just as easy as clicking a button, and that's not the case. Oh, goodness. Hello to everyone. Thank you so much for showing up. So it's Wyn today, which I'm sure you saw from the comments. Kit is kind of worn out, and so she's resting. And we had a presentation today at school, and so I had to wear makeup. And Daniel would rather be caught dead than on camera in super girly makeup. So he's not here today either. And I've got my tea. See, we've got a lot of hellos. Hello, everyone. So yeah, so this is basically just to say thank you so much. I didn't ever think when I started this channel that we would reach 1,000 subscribers, especially not within the period of, I think, 2 months. So I am just absolutely blown away. You guys, you don't know how amazing you are. Well, I hope you know. I hope every one of you started the day looking in the mirror and saying, dang, I'm amazing, because it's true. Checking the chat here. There's like a small delay, I think, between me and the chat. And so if I'm slow answering questions, it's because it hasn't shown up for me yet. Lots of congratulations. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, what does my hoodie say? I'll stand up so you guys can see. So I don't know if any of you guys have seen or read The Handmaidens Sale, but this is Nulte te bastardes carborundum, which, or I didn't say that last word right, sorry, but it's don't let the bastards grind you down in Latin. I love The Handmaidens Sale so much, and so I saw this hoodie on Redbubble, and I could not pass it up. Let's see here. How long did you know you have DID? I knew on paper for about a year. It'll actually, today's the 18th, right? Yeah, it'll be a year tomorrow from when I got diagnosed. I went into this a little bit in the video of how I found out that I had DID. But basically, like, I started having really weird dissociative episodes, and I started like becoming different people, which I now know was me being co-conscious with the others. And it was just a really, really insane experience. But yeah, so with my own experience and the official diagnosis and the help of a trauma specialist that I go to therapy with, who is just the most amazing woman on earth, I found out I had DID, and it's been a lot easier ever since finding out. A lot more things make sense, and I'm able to handle all the stuff that goes on in my head so much more effectively now that I know what I'm dealing with. So hyped for season 2 of The Handmaidens Tale. Me too. It's gonna be completely up to the TV show creators, because there's, they ended at the end of the book, so I'm a little nervous where they'll go with their creative liberties. But I hope that even if it's half as good as the first season, that it's there. Ooh, have you ever had an altar destroy your things? Hey. Oh, they talked about what to the author about what to do. Thanks, the spoon. That actually makes me even more excited. But going back to the troops question, have you ever had an altar destroy your things? Not destroy, but throw out. Mistletoe had a period where she was acting out of hurt. But she, in the middle of the night, when I thought I was sleeping, it was 2 nights in a 1 week time span. She got up and took a bunch of my silverware and went outside, threw it in the dumpster, came back inside and went to bed. Which honestly, like, that sounds really funny and I can laugh about it now, but that was terrifying to just be like, I thought I was asleep, but apparently my body was conscious and out doing things without me knowing. So that really threw me through a loop. And she did some other stuff that was not productive. And the way that I dealt with it, my therapist dealt with it, was really just acknowledging that place of hurt that she was coming from, and the reason she was acting the way she was because she was trying to deal with an issue and solve it in the tools that she had been given. And the way she was formed and the way she grew up, those were the tools that she had to cope with this stuff. And so really just trying to empathize with her and help her build a toolkit that would allow her to more effectively deal with this hurt in a way that is productive and helps the system kind of rally around her rather than pull away out of fear. Our relationship has definitely gotten better over time since then. So we did over Christmas have her throw away a gift that I was supposed to give to my mother. But we're still working out some kinks, but our relationship's definitely getting better because, acknowledging that it's not just trying to be mean, it's trying to deal with pain, and just not knowing how to do that. Do we have any pets? We have 2 cats, a little Maine Coon mix who has like the softest fur ever, like it's chinchilla soft. It's so nice to just pet her. And then a orange tabby, who we just found out has anxiety. So she's on medicine for that. So, I guess it's just part of the household now. Do we have different political opinions? Not a lot. Now that I'm thinking about it, Mistletoe is a lot more conservative than the rest of us, but I don't know if that extends beyond, like, into political. I've never really asked about their political opinions. I know that, like, morally and, like, religiously, she's a lot more conservative, but I don't know about political. I've never delved into that with them. I'm still learning about them every day, so maybe we do. I'm not sure. How often do you fully dissociate into an alter or fragment before you can be diagnosed? There's not really a how often that I'm aware of. The DSM, the Diagnostic Manual for mental disorders, is you have to have at least 2 personality states, so host plus at least 1. and you have to have some kind of a dissociative amnesia connected to that. A lot of times that dissociative amnesia occurs early in life as well as present day. Goodness, excuse me, sorry. But there's not like you have to be dissociating 4 times a week before, it doesn't work that way. As long as you have those diagnostic criteria, and there are a couple other ones, like it can't be because of like substances. So if you get drunk and you have sober you and drunk you, like that doesn't count. It can't be because of religion, stuff like that. But yeah, it's just if you have personality states and dissociative amnesia, either early in life or present day or both, then you fit that criteria. Let's see. Hi, Megan. Any suggestions for identity confusion? We have a lot of alters who don't know who they are, and they are fronting most of the time. For this, it kind of falls into, and if you watch my videos and hear me talk, you're going to get sick and tired of this phrase, but keep an open mind and just see how things develop, and encourage your alters to do the same thing. Maybe they don't know really who they are. Mistletoe has a lot of confusion about her identity because she doesn't know when she was created or what the event she was created around. She has memories of our childhood, but she doesn't know how early on she was actually formed. And that causes a lot of confusion and upset for her. So, we try to guide and we're like, okay, well, we're currently working on like a timeline of when everybody was born and whose memories go where and everything. And we're just filling in the gaps as we go. And we acknowledge that there's going to be a lot of unknowns probably for a long time, but I just lost my train of thought. There's going to be a lot of unknowns for a long time, but that is kind of just part of the deal. So just observe, and try not to jump to any conclusions. And if you have an idea of what things are and you get new information, try to allow yourself to flow with that new information. I know that's not like a really solid answer, but that's what's been working for us the best. So. Ooh, is there any place I'd like to travel before I die? My husband and I are really, really lucky. We have been able to travel to 3 different countries. We did our honeymoon in South Korea, which was amazing. He actually taught English there for a few years. And so that was my first like taste outside of the country. Since he lived there and he knew the not so touristy spots, he could guide me around and stuff. And honestly, if I could get the chance to live there and have a job, I would go there in a heartbeat because that country is beautiful and the culture is amazing and the food is delicious. Oh goodness. But we've also gone to Greece, and we got to go to Egypt also. Egypt was kind of a childhood dream for both my husband and I. And so getting to go there was just surreal. I'd have to say, if there's any other places that I'd want to go, I mean, there are a lot of places that would want to go. I kind of want to go everywhere, really. I want to see Rome, and I'd like to see like Jordan. I really love places where history is still intact, where you can go and you can see, and technically not supposed to touch, but theoretically you can touch history. And so I'd say probably one of those 2 spots. I'd really like to see Stonehenge someday too. But, that's a lot of traveling, so we'll see. How long have I been married? 3.5 years. We've been together 5.5. Very, very happy years. It has caused a little bit of a it has made the DID thing a little more weird than it normally would be, because we were together for 5 years thinking it was just me and him, and now suddenly he's married to 10 people instead of 1. So it's a bit of an adjustment, and we're kind of learning how to work that out. But he's been great and patient, and we're both learning new things every day. When the host comes forward, is it possible for the eyes to change colors? There was a report from a now discredited psychologist that claimed that eye color can change. I cannot sit here and say definitively that that's not true, because I'm not that psychologist and I didn't have those experiences, but just knowing the science of how that works, I would say no, because that's would be along the same lines of like my skin color changing, which it's something that's set in stone. That's not something that alternates. So I would say no. That's not a likely scenario. Do you know DID systems who are 50 plus? I am friends with a couple, or online friends with a couple DID systems that are 100 plus, polyfragmented systems. So yeah, systems vary from, just having 2 personality states to having, 100 or hundreds, or just an unknowable number, depending on what the mind needed to do to adapt and survive to whatever situation, whatever trauma shaped their disorder. Would my husband ever want to be in a video? Probably not. He is very reserved, and doesn't really like, even going out with social outings, more than he absolutely has to, like, in person. So I feel like he would not be fond of the idea of sitting in front of a camera and just chatting. But who knows? Maybe I can convince him. I'll sweet talk him a little bit, see if I can get him on a video. Oh, kaleidoscope. We mean age-wise, not like body age. Yes, also that. There is one person who I was in sort of a group therapy with, who I think she's in her 60s, who has DID. I'm not incredibly close with her, because that was really the only interaction we had, but she was a very, very sweet woman. But yeah, we chatted for a bit, and then she moved on to a new therapist, and I haven't seen her since. Also, I'm sorry I'm super sniffly. I'm allergic to my cats, so I'm basically eternally stuffed up, like always. So I'm always really sniffly, and I'm sure that's really gross, because in our videos I can edit it out, but this is live stream, so I can't. Hi from Australia. Hey. Any tips for other DID YouTubers? Sure. So what we did when we decided to shape our channel was, we tried to, we picked a target audience, and we tried to shape content that would be appealing to said target audience. So what we wanted to do, what our initial goal was to make kind of fun, accessible content to people who maybe don't know about DID at all, or know very little about DID, to be able to come and watch our videos and get snippets of information. So we began our channel with the assumption that whoever's watching our videos knows next to nothing about DID, and we spaced out like different sections. Like we have one video specifically on co-consciousness and just discussing that. And we weren't initially going to do like the Hello System series, because just from a sort of content creator standpoint, people aren't drawn to those videos unless they already have some sort of emotional connection to the people they're learning about. So once people started to develop an emotional connection to us, because you're amazing, then we started to dive into that a little bit. But we're going to continue to try to make it just fun information snippets with that. Another thing that I see commonly in a lot of channels, and this isn't just DID YouTubers, but this is kind of content creators, new content creators in general, is editing. When you're speaking in a video, you want to sort of be animated, like eyebrows up, you know, a little energy in your voice. And when you're editing, try to cut out any pauses or ums. Like I'll tell you that most of our videos, we'll sit down and record and they'll end up being 30 minutes long. And then we edit it down to 8 to just make it really concise and fast paced, because that's what keeps people going. Also, keeping video times down is important too. You never, or I don't like using always and never, but you want to try to make it feel that it's a quick, fun experience, because people don't generally come to YouTube for like really long videos. I mean, they might click on videos and be watching for hours, but they like to jump around a lot. So keeping those things in mind and shaping your content around that is what I would suggest for videos, and adding, I don't want to say quality to the channel, but adding accessibility to your channel. What's my favorite portrayal of DID in media? So I don't actually like any DID portrayals in media. I mean, there are the obvious ones that I wouldn't like the movie Split. I'm so sick of the murder stereotype. I'm actually more angry at United States of Terra than I am at Split, because initially yes, was it super over the top? For sure. But they were trying to make it like feel like not scary and try to, get into the family aspect and how all that worked and sort of struggles and stuff. And then they end the season with her like scaring her whole family away and then locking her up. I was just, sorry, major spoilers, but like, I was so furious. Like, at least with Split, like you knew it was just going to be a bad guy in the end. Oh God. Okay. But Sense8, if any of you have ever seen that Netflix show, the way that the characters connect with one another and are able to mentally sort of encourage each other and help each other solve problems and get out of situations, that unintentionally became the best portrayal of DID. And I plan on doing a video of why Sense8 is amazing for people with DID, like an unintentional, fantastic representation. So if you want to see what DID feels like in the best way possible in media that I'm aware of, that's what I'd go with. Have you ever had an alter come out for an extended period of time? And have you ever been afraid that you will not be able to come back out and they will take over being host? To my knowledge, no one inside really, well, no one except for Mistletoe really wants to take over being host. She talked about wanting to do that for a while, and that was nerve-wracking for sure. But generally, when I'm gone for long periods of time, and by long periods of time, I mean like more than an hour, like Daniel has been sort of forced out front during really triggering situations, and he's had to be out for, 8, 10, 12 hours. And that's really upsetting to him because we're usually really good at like coordinating switches and, I'll fall back, someone will take over, I'll calm down and I can come back out again. But there are times when I don't know where I go, but I go somewhere. And he can't, or whoever's out front can't find me, can't reach inside and help bring me back out. And so that's really distressing for them, as well as myself. But I've never really been afraid of losing my position as host, I suppose. Excuse me. Love your drawings, especially the ones with the altars. Thank you. When did you start? I have been drawing basically my whole life, but it was really in high school. I made friends with a guy who I call him my older brother. We're not actually siblings, but his family like basically adopted me in high school. But he was a fantastic artist, just mind-blowingly good. And he taught me a lot. And then I spent a couple of years in university being an art student, and I learned a lot there. And then I switched to geology because it's really difficult to get a job in the art field, and I already have mental health working against me, so I wanted to broaden my horizons a little bit. But so yeah, I've had training from him and training from school, but I've been drawing since I could hold a pencil, really. How do you cope with losing time when you switch? I'm not aware of lost time usually. If I am losing time, which how do I phrase this? Like, I didn't know I was losing time at all. I didn't think that was something that I experienced until the incident where mistletoe threw out all my silverware. And so I know that it happens. I just don't know how often. But when I am aware of it, it's really upsetting. Like, it never ceases to scare me. Like, even if it's something really small, like there was one day I needed to get coffee creamer. So I go to the store and I beeline it to the back of the grocery store. I grab the creamer that I want and I beeline it to the checkout. And when I get to the checkout, suddenly like 10 minutes has passed and I'm holding a different creamer. And that's so small and so innocent. Like, I didn't lose a significant amount of time. All whoever that did was switch the creamer out because they wanted a different flavor. But it just doesn't stop being scary for me. Just knowing that my body is doing something and I have no awareness. It's still scary, even like if I sort of have, like, there will be times where if someone deep inside who doesn't come out normally, like Lido or Jacob, that they will come out and I'll sort of have like this dreamy, like when you wake up from a dream and if you really concentrate, you can pull some details. That's even a little unnerving for me, but losing time completely is something that I have a really hard time with. I deal with it, I suppose, by just kind of sitting down and calling a headspace meeting, kind of floating back into that headspace and sitting around the fireplace and just, asking, hey, who was out? Why were you out? Let's talk about ways we can be more diplomatic in the future. And, obviously I can't control that I can't keep that from happening, but I can try to reach out to my headmates and really try to help them understand why it's important to have different tools than taking the front and blacking out my memory of what's going on. I know that was a ramble. I hope that answered your question. Have you ever met any other systems offline? Three that I'm aware of. Two of them were in therapy setting. One of them was someone who my therapist was like, hey, this is also a client, and she wanted to be your friend, and you want to be her friend because you're both looking for DID buddies. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to give you each other information. And we were both like, yeah, that sounds great. So we hung out a few times, but busy lives, we don't get to see each other very often, which is sad because she's a sweetheart and her system is very sweet. But we've only gotten to hang out like 2 or 3 times. Do any of your alters also like to draw? Daniel draws. I don't know if he's as enthusiastic about it as I am, but he does it. Sometimes Kit will doodle too, but she likes to draw like super like cartoony stuff, and doesn't try to do like realism ever so much. What's the best and worst part about DID? Goodness gracious, excuse me. Best part, I suppose, like, it helps me understand myself in ways that I couldn't otherwise. My throat is I'm so sorry. 1 second. I'm really sorry about that. So when I start reacting a certain way, if something triggers me a certain way, or, emotions that I can't explain, instead of, flailing about and trying to be like, where did this come from? I can ask, hey, who is doing this? Why are you behaving this way? Why is this emotion coming up for you? And it helps me be able to handle things like anxiety and depression a lot more, because there's a team of us working together saying, oh, okay, this connected to this, which built to this emotion. And so that's, I guess, a perk of DID. The worst part is definitely finding out that my entire life was not what I thought it was. I didn't realize that I had childhood trauma as regularly and severe as I do. So repressed memories coming forward and just kind of shaking my idea of my reality is, to me, by far the absolute worst part of DID. Do any of your alters have different religions? I'm the only one who actively practices a religion. I am Kemetic, which is, I honor the old gods of Egypt, which a lot of people have told me sounds silly, but genuinely, we will honor gods that are a lot younger than them. So who's to say that they're not real either, right? Mistletoe leans a lot towards Christianity because all of her role models in my life or our lives growing up were very devout Christians. But she isn't like practicing. She hasn't requested any way to do things like go to a church or a Bible study or something like that. Kit is not religious, but she's super into astrology. But other than that, nobody has any sort of religious or spiritual inclinations at all. How did you find out you had DID? Like, what was the moment where everything clicked and you were like, oh, that explains everything? It wasn't really just one moment. It was a series of moments. Like having when Daniel started fronting regularly, and he was really confused what was going on, and I was really confused what was going on, and I kind of was like, am I gender fluid? Is this what this is now? And my husband asked me, well, when you're Daniel, are you still you? And I was like, oh, wait, like my tastes change, my memories even change. Like the way I view the world and my hopes and desires and all of this, they're not the same. So I'm not just like a male version of myself. I'm a completely different person. And so that was a real big click that kind of helped me understand things. And there have been a lot of moments like that over the past year that I'm like, oh, okay, that makes this piece make a lot of sense. And that makes this piece make a lot of sense. But I don't know if there was just one kind of aha moment. It's just a string of, We tried to create a Headspace meeting place, can't seem to figure it out or how to do it. Just briefly, what was your process? It kind of was already there for me. So what I have been told by Jonathan, who is he came to me, or he did come to me, I'm sorry. He was formed when I was like super, super young. So he was the first one to be alongside me. And so because of that, he kind of helps run the whole system. And what he told me was that when I started having these symptoms that, to my knowledge, I had not experienced before, it was his deciding that it was safe at that point for them all to let me know about their presence, that I was surrounded by people who were healthy enough and, with a therapist who they trusted. And so they showed themselves to me. And at the time, Moana was a really big movie that provided a lot of comfort and support to me personally. And so I think that's where the idea of an island came in, that Jonathan sort of shaped that idea of the beach. And then all of them sort of constructed the rest of the island from the beach, which is really the only place that I have access to provide that extra sort of comfort. So I don't know how I would go about starting from scratch on that. They did the hard work for me. How did I get into chemetism? Oh, are you a one also? Because that would be really cool. I started with Wicca. And that's still a heavy influence on my practice. But I was trying to look up Celtic deities and stuff like that, because that's where my birth heritage comes from, is I'm from Scotland, way back. And so I figured that would be what I connected with. But then all of a sudden there was one day where I was just like overcome with thoughts about the goddess Isis. And I kind of did this meditation and got this really beautiful imagery of her sort of taking me in and empowering me specifically to speak and go help people. And then I just really dived in and felt very connected to the deities. And I've been, reading passages from like the Book of the Dead and the pyramid texts and all this stuff to try to learn from the source, because there's not a ton of information about Egypt, but it's been a really fascinating journey. Like everything about the ancient Egyptian religion is just beautiful and very, very cool. And it helps me feel very empowered, just kind of working within that realm. Oh, stronghold system. I have a video about how to create an inside world. Guys, I'm going to shout out for her real quick. Stronghold system has fantastic videos that are resources for people who have dissociative disorders, about like how to talk to your therapist about the possibility of you having this disorder, about just how to create an inside world, things like that. Just super awesome resources. Please go check their system out, or their channel out, because there's a lot of good information there. What are different or more common types of dissociation? So the one kind of like go-to when people are trying to describe dissociation is, when you jump in the car and you go home and you're kind of on autopilot. So you drove home, but you were spaced out thinking about something else the whole time. Or like if you're in a class and you're super bored and you start daydreaming, and then suddenly the class is over and you're like, oh my God, where'd time go? So that's dissociation that basically everybody experiences to some extent. And then it gets more severe, you get maladaptive daydreaming, it gets more severe, you start having various dissociative disorders, and then the far end of the spectrum is dissociative identity disorder. So it's a range from things that everybody experiences to things that, only this specific area has. Hey, Sophie's Scottish. I really can't take a lot of claim to that. Like, I did my ancestry tree, and the family line didn't hit Scotland until about like the mid 1500s. So there's a lot of distance. So I can't take a ton of claim to that. But heritage, right? Do you reserve time for your littles to be out? I try to. It's difficult because on one hand, we tried to have time where Me could come out all by herself in the apartment, but it was scary for her to be alone in the apartment. And on the other hand, not a lot of people are comfortable being around littles. It's disconcerting for a lot of people to be around an adult body with a child mind. So finding ways for them to come out and have time to play and stuff in a safe and supportive environment isn't something that's incredibly easy for us. What we've ended up doing is our sort of compromise is, if, let's say, me or Karen want to watch a specific movie or specific YouTube video or something like that, I'll set up and I'll kind of wait for them to be very, very co-conscious, very, very close to the front. And then I'll let them tell me what to do so they can kind of watch from the inside and have things happen. But it's not something that happens as regularly as I'd like it to. Why do you have the name Entropy System for your channel? So entropy is, like, in really basic terms, it's the scientific idea that everything in the universe leads toward chaos. That's why if you put a drop of food coloring into water, it's going to disperse out really easily. But it's really difficult to get it back into that concentrated thing again. And so our idea, if you shake something up, it's going to randomize, is basically the idea. And when we were learning about that, I was like, oh, that's kind of like what happened to us. We got shaken up and we scattered and randomized and things got chaotic. And so now we're fighting against that natural tendency to chaos, to become more ordered, and go against the flow of, I guess, mental entropy. So that's why we're the Entropy System. Why don't I have access to the entire inner world? Do they not let you? I'm not entirely sure. I know that Jacob, who is our other, Jonathan and Jacob sort of run the system together from the inside. And Jacob is the one who kind of can control who goes where and stuff like this. The going theory of why I can't go deeper is that I am either partially fronting, like I'm in control of the body and sort of drifted back into the headspace, like an intense daydream, I suppose would be a good analogy. Or I'm just sort of gone. And so the theory is that because I'm connected to the body, when I have control of going into the headspace, it prevents me from going all the way, like a leash or a tether of some kind. But I honestly don't know the answer to that. Oh, my tea got cold. sad. Why do you call it a system? I've never met another in-life DID, and I'm a little bit new to understanding community. That's just sort of the vocabulary that I heard being used. That's the common vernacular, is to call it a system. I haven't really heard a lot of other terms for a collective group of identities in a single body. So yeah, that's just the vocabulary that existed, and I picked it up. Have you ever tried meditating? Yes, I meditate quite often. Well, not so often lately because school is really busy and life is really busy, but I do try to make time at least a couple times a week to meditate. Generally in a more of a religious aspect, like a meditation prayer mix, but it falls under the same sort of thing, right? Questionably hollow, hi. Just kind of scrolling up here to see if I missed any questions. Do you and your husband want kids? If so, would you be open with them about your DID? We do want children, yes. And I'm not entirely sure how I would handle the DID thing. There is a channel, Devi Uniquely 3, I think, is the channel I saw this video on, but kind of just discussed how they handle having a child with DID. And the way they go about it is saying, yes, this is, no matter who's out, the child will be like, oh, are you this person? And be like, well, yeah, but I'm mom, and kind of getting the idea that even though there are different faces or, to mom, everybody in the system is still mom. Like there's no disconnect from that, and all of us love you and stuff like that. So I would probably approach it in that way. But I don't know if that's something. I can have a bunch of ideas, but I don't know if that's something that I'd actually know for sure what to do until I'm, in the moment trying to figure it out. Pink camo, hi. Oh, Stronghold's offering, because, yep, Stronghold's a parent also. I'm so glad you're here to help me answer questions. Thank you so much. Kind of scrolling up here. I think I hit all these. How did you go from feeling like other people to fully flushed out alters who can switch back and forth and are able to communicate with each other? So my feeling like other people was having fully fleshed out alters. What I didn't know at the time was that was co-consciousness. That was me dissociating and taking a back seat, but still being aware of what they were doing and kind of sensing their personality and their thoughts and their feelings and stuff like that. So at that point, it was fully fleshed identities. I just didn't know what to call it. So I called it, I felt like I was becoming them because I could sense their thoughts and their, their stuff. But ultimately, when they were out, I didn't have control over what they did or anything like that. They were very sweet in that I would sometimes ask, hey, please don't talk to this person, or hey, like, it was weird, like, asking myself to do this. Like, I have trouble explaining it. But yeah, it was never just sort of, I feel like them. It was, that was just my only vocabulary for describing what was happening to me. How did your husband react to your diagnosis? It kind of took him by surprise as much as it took me by surprise, because this wasn't anything that was even remotely on our radar. And the symptoms that I started having, like, in the months leading up to my diagnosis, were something that in the years that we had been together, I hadn't really experienced. So it was sort of like going from 0 to 60 immediately with this whole DID thing, and being aware of my DID. And so I was able to sort of adapt to it a little bit more quickly, because I was living with it every second of the day. So I was forced to. And he has been trying really hard to understand, and being very patient as we try to, go. But he's still working out things like, so are they you? Aren't they you? How does that separation work? Things like that. But he's been a really great support. And even though it's been really, kind of difficult and confusing, he's still, he's part of the team, and working with us to sort of make life flow more smoothly. This is a hard question to phrase properly, but what do you tend to think of your alters as? Like, do you think of them as yourself, or entirely different people, or other? I think of them, and we all think of each other as part of a unit, that we are all collectively one. It's just that because of trauma, there are walls that went up between us, very, very thick walls that we can't penetrate. We can't access those parts of the brain in the same way. And so they developed into unique personalities. But none of us think that we're completely independent, and that we're not connected to each other in that way. I guess I can't say none. Mistletoe still kind of goes back and forth in that, and Leto is still really, really working hard to come to terms with the fact that he's not this completely independent being that he thought he was, like he is in his character is in the TV show. So for the most part, it's just an understood that we are one collective, and that we're not all split off as actual different people. Who in your life did you disclose your DID to? Honestly, I try to be as absolutely candid about it as I can. I've got got this little necklace that I'm wearing today. It's got the symbol for, I guess this is the symbol for multiplicity. I've never seen it anywhere except for the website that sold this, but because I know there's a lot of stigma around DID, but most of the people in my life are people who I interact with regularly, like even my professors and stuff. Part of the graduation requirement with our geology department is that you have to go on these field trips. So we're spending a week out camping and canoeing and in the wilderness away from anybody else. So if something happens, like if one of the littles comes out, which did happen on the last trip, they need to know, right? But secondly, like, because of the way I grew up and the environment that I was in, like, I spent my entire life being forced to, like, sit down, shut up, in certain ways. Like, I don't want to say that, because, like, my parents are great. My parents are great people, and they encouraged me to be creative and stuff like that. But, like, there was a lot just because of, like, religion and, some of that and the way things work and different life philosophies. I had to hide a lot of who I was and a lot of my genuine feelings. I just kind of had to stuff it. And I'm genuinely sick of doing that. So I decided that I wasn't going to try to hide it, that I was just going to, if someone's part of my life and they're a regular part of my life, then I'm like, hey, by the way, I have this, just so you know. So yeah, I'm a lot more open about it than I think most other people are, but it's more of an act of defiance on my past than it is anything else. Hey, RAM system, you made it. Yay. Did you notice things kind of got worse before they got better? Oh my goodness, yes. Yes, because for the dissociative symptoms and the weird episodes and the becoming other people, which again was just me being co-conscious, like that threw my whole life into a tailspin. And then repressed memories started coming up, and that was basically just reliving trauma. And so that was awful, and I was very confused and very scared, and it took a while. Like it got a lot worse before it got better. And I've been told that that's kind of just what happens with healing processes, is that it's going to get worse before it gets better. So it's kind of on the upswing now. Like things are, in general, a lot more under control and a lot more stable. So but yeah, I definitely did notice that for sure. Do you have ideas about how you would want your future to be in regards to daily life and internal/system experience? So my future, I really want to be a high school science teacher. If you couldn't tell, I really like to educate. And I like to, share the things I'm passionate about. And one thing that I'm really passionate about is rocks. Rocks are cool as heck, guys. So I'd love to be a high school earth science teacher. And that's going to really require a lot, like high level of system balance, because when you're an educator in a public school, you have to be there for an 8-hour day. You can't just call in sick, once a week. You can't, if you have an anxiety attack in the middle of the day, or if God forbid, if somebody else comes out, that's not going to work. So, we really have to work on cementing fluidity and control in our system for that. Internally, most of us agree, and this is really controversial, and this is not the healing path for every system. I want to specify that first, is not all systems integrate, and not all systems should. The healing path ultimately for every DID system is life functionality. And sometimes that means really awesome system communication, and sometimes that means integration. Most of us feel like, and this is obviously going to happen years down the road. This isn't something that goes quickly, but someday would like to start integrating back into one, unified. We jokingly call it becoming our Megazord. All of our little Zords come together and we become the Megazord of us, and putting all of ourselves in the same thing. Because Jonathan joined me or split off from me, so early in life, my therapist has prepared me for the possibility that because I was so young, it might not be a possibility. My brain just might be wired this way forever. And if that's the case, I'm completely okay with that also. I feel like as long as we can have good communication, coordination, cooperation in the system, that, we can live just as full and functional a life as anybody else. So regardless of what that looks like, we have a life plan, and we're going to work on achieving that. Rock side channel, please. we'll see about that. We'll see about that. If we have an Instagram that's private, but we're thinking about making public Instagram. But basically, our whole Instagram is just, oh my god, I found a cool rock, and so it's all just rocks. Which of your alters do you think you're most similar to in terms of personality? Oh, that's tough. Because really, I connect with them all on some level. Like Kit is, I guess I don't really have a ton in common with Kit. She embraces like my secret desire to be wild and crazy. So I suppose there's that level of things. Daniel is very like calm and balanced, and I relate to him on that level of trying very hard to not rock the boat and sort of, when it's not necessary, and ease conflict out, find middle ground rather than, plowing through. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, me is probably the one who I feel most similar to, because between the both of us, there's a lot of vulnerability that the others don't have in the same way. And there's also just sort of taking joy in the teeny tiny things in life that the others don't carry in the same way. So now that I'm thinking about it, I relate most to my 6-year-old alter. I don't know what that says about me, but yes, I love that. RAM System, an Instagram run by us called Rock You Like a Hurricane. Puns. Hello, Sam the Lamist. I hope I said that right. Stronghold System, thank you again. Healing without integration is referred to as the 3 C's: cooperation, co-consciousness, communication. Yes, yes, yes. I love how many questions there are about if I have a second channel, YouTube channel about rocks. I do have a second YouTube channel, but it's my space where I make really nerdy, like, fan music videos. Like, I have one for the TV show Gotham, and I have one for the TV show Jessica Jones, or the Netflix show Jessica Jones, where, I have all the clips and I put it to music and stuff. There's only like 3 videos up there because it's really time consuming, but that's my fun little thing. I'll probably share that in a Facebook group if anybody's interested in seeing that. It's dorky. Or you could go for the obvious name, School of Rock, like the movie. Because we denied it so long, my alters are scared to share who they are, especially their names. Do you have any experience helping them feel comfortable in sharing these things? Yeah, that's something we're still working on, actually. You wouldn't guess it from the YouTube channel, but because making videos is it's a very controlled environment. When, for example, Daniel makes a video and he posts it, he knows that whoever is clicking on the video is, prepared to see him and usually happy to see him, because I'm very happy to see how many people are fans of his. But in person, even with our therapist, if one of us switches out, it's really, really difficult. And it's very scary to say, hey, it's me now, it's Daniel now, or it's Kit now. Because they spent 26 years hiding from me, even. So the idea of bringing attention to a switch and saying, hey, I'm out, is really scary to almost all of them. So we've just been working on, validating that fear and saying, hey, it's okay. I want you to know, this person, this person, this person is safe. I've talked to people like, if you notice a change, like my husband, my therapist, a couple close friends, like they're able to tell the changes in voice or mannerisms and stuff, which isn't as obvious as it looks on YouTube either, because we get all dressed up and, stuff like that. But when you're wearing the same outfit and the same makeup, it's a lot more difficult to know who's out. But if you really pay attention, you can tell. So, a lot of times they will have to say, hey, is Daniel out right now? And he'll say yes or whatever. So basically my answer to that would be don't try not to push it, just validate it and remind them that these certain people are safe. See if you can encourage those people to sort of prove their safety by, opening up and saying, hey, I do appreciate your presence here, and I'm happy to be around you and stuff like that. But it's not an easy process. It's slow coming. How do your days? Excuse me again. I am so coffee. Normally I'm really sniffly. Today I'm coughing a bunch. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. How do your days tend to be structured? Do you find you're able to stay front most of the day? Do you guys tend to have really random switches, or are they stimulus based? So we try to function in a way that people who want to have time up front are able to have time up front. And usually that means following the boring work structure of the day, which means whoever's out front, like Daniel, you can be out front for this next hour, but you have to attend class and take notes and share that with the rest of us, and stuff like that. So it's not that we, write down on the calendar, okay, from this time to this time, this person's going to be up front. From this time to this time, this person's going to be up front. Usually it's myself. And then if somebody else is kind of pushing to want to come forward, we try to accommodate and make that possible, because we want everybody to feel validated and appreciated in the system. There are random switches sometimes. Sometimes it's trigger based, and sometimes it just happens. Like there doesn't seem to be any stress trigger or trauma trigger. It's just like bloop, it's another person. And so we're a lot better at coordinating things and keeping things from being random, but that's not something that we have down pat yet. Did alters ever come to you through in dreams prior to them coming out? Yes. I think I'm going to take this question, then I can take one more question because I have to get ready to go to class. But Jonathan and Jacob both regularly came to me in dreams before I knew that they were alters. And basically what they would do, because neither of them have a set like physical appearance like the rest of us do, they face change. Like they don't shapeshift because they're always people, but it's kind of like, I'm blanking out, from X-Men. Somebody throw me the name, the blue girl who's Magneto's friend. I am genuinely a nerd. Like I love comic books, and I am horrified at Mystique. Oh my God, I am so embarrassed that just happened live. I couldn't remember her name. Crap. Anyway, so they're like that. And so they would take on forms of familiar, like pop culture people who I admired. So for a while, they came in dreams as Sam and Dean Winchester from Supernatural. And for a while, they came as Rhett and Link from Good Mythical Morning, because like those two have been friends their whole lives, and that sort of like love and devotion to another person, to be friends for 30 some odd years, it was like really touching and inspiring to me. So they latched onto that and they came and appeared like that. And so I would have these dreams where these two males would come in and we would sort of like go on like detective adventures and stuff like this, but I got to call the shots. I got to have control over the environment. And so they structured these dreams in a way that I felt validated and that I was reminded that I am capable of solving problems and I am capable of taking care of myself and stuff like this. And so one day I woke up after a series of these dreams had happened, and I was just like, okay, there's something with these dreams. And so I thought it was just the possibility that it may have just been one altar. So I kind of drifted inside and I was like, hey, is this anybody else? And I started getting two names at the same time, which was really confusing. So I'm like, okay, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And then I realized, oh, you're actually two separate people. And they function as a unit. They're, first of all, Jonathan and Jacob are married. They're the oldest in the system. Like, they're both 40. Oh, I guess Mistletoe's older than them. But they work in tandem to control access to memories and to who gets to front and stuff like that. So sometimes, even when we're talking about them, we'll accidentally call them by the other person's name because they're like so tight. But yeah, so I found out about them because of dreams. Mm-hmm. Trying to scroll through and find one last question before I have to go. If someone were to write a book show character that has DID, how would you wish it to be written? That's going to be a really long answer. I do want to address that question though, so I'm going to probably make a video talking about that. So that question will get addressed, but just not right now. Is there anything in particular about DID you now know that would have been useful to know at the time of your diagnosis? Yes. Oh, the question right above that, are dream alters common? I have no idea. I can only speak to my own experience there. I'm not sure how that works with other systems. But what would have been something useful to know at the time? What would have been most useful to me would be to understand that alters are not two-dimensional beings. When I started looking things up about DID, it's really easy to find lists of types of alters, and Kit's made videos about some of these. But I went through and I was like, okay, a protector is someone who I can call upon and they can come into the situation and be emotionally stable and they can go through this. And then all of a sudden, Daniel, who I considered my main protector, I found out he was full of self-doubt and, was intimidated by certain situations that I wasn't intimidated by, even though he was brave in situations where I was scared. And he had hopes and desires and fears and all these things. He dealt with negative self-talk sometimes and had insecurities about being in a female body. Like he was so complex and there was so much to him. It wasn't just that he was a protector. It's that he was a personality. They're, a three-dimensional thing. And so I feel like that would have helped me connect to my system in a lot more effective way a lot earlier if I had been aware that even though we assign names to these things to help kind of understand the structure of systems, that's not all that an alter is. So yeah, that is my answer to that question. And so thank you everybody who showed up today. You guys are great. You're beautiful. I hope you know how wonderful you are. And yeah, I'll keep everybody updated on the possible new Instagram, and feel free to follow us on Tumblr. It's the Entropy We. WE, the Entropy We at tumblr.com or .tumblr.com. We're on there fairly regularly, and yeah, I look forward to just seeing you guys comments on future videos. So bye.